First chapter Friday, friends. Let's add a little mystery to our lives with Speculation by Nisi Shawl. Here's chapter 1. It was raining lilacs. At least that's what it looked like to Winna, sitting on her grandparents' screened-in porch. The tiny squares of dark mesh blurred things together, going in and out of focus, so silver drops of rain became the flowers they fell on, fell from, and fell all around. Winna took off her glasses to make it more like that, more mixed up and mysterious. Magic. Magic was real. Grown-ups and high school kids said there was no such thing, but Winna knew they were wrong. They just said that because they had given up. You can't give up, she muttered to herself. Mom said so all the time, even when she had to go to the hospital. Going to the hospital was not giving up. Winna stroked the spine of the book Mom had given her. Well, Mom had given her the money to buy it, digging into her purse and trusting her with a whole month's allowance before she got into a taxi cab to the hospital and shut the door, and blew a kiss out of the window as the cab pulled off down the street. Winna hadn't seen her since, 2 whole weeks. She left her glasses off and picked the book up from the patchwork quilt she had tucked around her legs so she could sit alone on the cool, flower-smelling porch. She had to put the page way up close to her face, which was supposed to be bad for you, but maybe some of the story would rub off on her. It was called The Time Garden. It was by Winna's favorite author right now, Edward Eager. He wrote about magic happening to regular ordinary kids, just like her, or almost just like her. They were white. They always managed to find an enchanted something, a well or a brook, a book or a coin. Winna was tall for her age, 10, and she was constantly being told to stand up straight and act like she was proud of her height by everyone but Mom, who must have heard the same thing all her life. Winna tried to have good posture, like everyone wanted, but it was hard when she was always looking on the ground for a magic object. A ring, maybe, or a scroll of papyrus inscribed with strange runic symbols. Meanwhile, there was the book. The adventures started when Anne, Roger, Eliza, and Jack discovered an enchanted plant that let them travel in time. The magic had just whisked them away to a tropical island, and now they were trying to keep their own parents, who as children had apparently had similar adventures, from being consumed by cannibals for lunch. It was kind of funny, but scary too, because it made Winna think how if someone eats your mother as a little girl, you don't have a real good chance of being born. 40 pages passed, and the dangers of cannibals were replaced by those of fire-breathing dragons. Winna tried for the 3rd time to brush away the spider web, or mosquitoes, or whatever it was that kept tickling her knees where the quilt had slipped off. She touched something soft and squishy and damp. Gosh, she cried, jumping up on the back of the armchair. But it was only her little sister, Tupelo, who stuck her wet fingers back in her mouth and started crying like the baby she was, sitting on the floor. She was always sneaking up on people. Winna sighed and rolled her eyes back so she was looking at the dirty white rafters of the porch ceiling. Can't a person get any privacy? Tupelo sniffed and took her fingers out so she could wipe her nose with the back of her pudgy brown hand. But there wasn't nothing on TV. There wasn't anything on TV. There wasn't anything on TV, Tupelo amended, except Highway Patrol, and I was lonely. Her dark eyes stared up accusingly. Winna made an effort to put herself in her sister's place, not down on the floor, but the way her guidance counselor, Miss Ross, was always trying to get her to do. Of course, Tupelo was lonely way out here in the country, well, in Vandalia, but Vandalia practically was the country. A church, a barber's, and a post office, which was of course closed for the Memorial Day weekend. No kids they knew for miles around unless you counted their cousin Benny, who was a year older and a little mean. So Winna would have to play with Tupelo herself. Well, what do you want to do? I don't know, but she looked a little better, grateful to be asked. You still got that coloring book Uncle Marv gave you? Yeah, but I don't feel like coloring. After a few more guesses, Winna decided that all her sister really wanted was someone to cuddle with. "All right," she said, motioning with one arm. "Come on up here, big girl. Let me see if I can do anything with that head." She had her comb in her back pocket, and she had to twist around to get it. So she didn't see what happened next. She heard it. Crunch! It was an awful sound, and Winna knew exactly what it meant. Last time that sound had come from under the paws of an overly friendly German shepherd. Now it issued forth from beneath her sister's butt. Tupelo rose right back up from the chair cushion, as if going into reverse fast enough could undo the damage, but it was hopeless. The whole weekend was ruined. Winna's glasses were broken, and that was that. Heavens to Betsy! Grandma didn't seem at all upset, not compared to the way Mom was last time. "Those glasses cost me $65, she had said back then. "Just how do you expect me to pay for more?" And she had walked out the door, down the steps, and up the block to the IGA, bought some cigarettes, and started smoking again like she'd never stopped. Money was a big deal to Mom. But Grandma seemed to take what had happened a little easier. Maybe because of all the cookies and pies and donuts she always made. Winna had heard it said over and over, "You are what you eat." So if Grandma was made of butter, sugar, flour, and eggs, all that soft, sweet stuff kept her from getting mad at the pieces of blue plastic lying there on the dining room table. They had already tried taping the frame back together, but the results were wobbly. When Winna put them on, the world looked all weird. Parts too far, parts too close, and leaning over like the sky was going to fall in on her head. It made her so dizzy they took off the tape and set the pieces back on the table, where their reflections shone quietly in the dark, polished wood. "Heavens to Betsy," Grandma said again. "Well, pretty soon your grandfather will be back from Papa. He ought to have some notion what we can do." Winna nodded, but secretly she doubted that. Today was Saturday. Her eye doctor wouldn't be open until Tuesday. Even if he let her come in for an emergency, that was at home in Kalamazoo, which must be miles and miles away, so she was going to be bumbling around half-blind all weekend. She would miss the fireworks. But when Grandpa Carl came in, he seemed to know exactly what to do. He left the box of groceries on the dining room table, overriding Grandma's concern for the finish. "It'll only sit there for a minute, Dot. I'll be back in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail." He walked into their bedroom, and soon there were funny creaking noises coming from over their heads. Shuffling, slidey sounds, too. There must be an attic, Winna thought. She walked over to the bathroom and saw that what she had always assumed was a closet door had wooden steps going up behind it, steep as a ladder. A dry, dusty smell drifted down from the top. The wood glowed golden and reddish-brown by the light of a single bulb. The string Grandpa Carl must have pulled to turn it on still danced in the air. She was about to join him when there was a loud thump and more quick, creaky noises. For some reason, Winna decided to go back to the dining room table and pretend she had been sitting there all along. Grandpa Carl didn't suspect a thing. He was smiling under his gray mustache and running his fingers through his curly hair as he walked down toward them. He carried a small blue leather eyeglass case and set it on the table in front of Winna. "Those belong to your great-aunt Estelle," he said. "Maybe they'll do the trick. At least till we can get you another pair." They had silver frames around perfect circles of glass. 2 tiny stars pierced the bridge right where it would rest on Winna's nose. "Those are a pair of real old-fashioned spectacles there," Grandma observed. "Go ahead," said Grandpa Carl. "Try 'em." Winna lifted the glasses from their case and saw that the earpieces curled almost all the way around, like the kind in pictures of Benjamin Franklin. They were beautiful, but different. Reluctantly, she put them on. It was like stepping into a newborn world. The dim, shadowy dining room became suddenly clear. Dark corners revealed details, clocks and cupboards, and curious carvings that ran around the walls up near the ceiling. "Wow," said Winna. She turned and faced Grandpa Carl. "Thanks. These are fabulous." She could see every little curl on his head and how it went and why it had to go that way. Grandpa Carl smiled, and she saw the lines on his face, how they fell into the places they had got used to being in for years. "Let me see you," said Grandma on her other side. But when Winna looked at her, she noticed tears. Like dewdrops on a spider web, they flickered on Grandma's long white lashes, then flashed and disappeared. The spitting image of my sister. "Carl, doesn't she favor her?" "Estelle? I'd say there's a fairly strong resemblance, yes. Question is, as glasses go, do these fill the bill?" Winna nodded as hard as she could. "They're even better than my old ones. Maybe it was time for a new prescription. Can I?" She hesitated, then went ahead and asked, "Maybe if I'm careful, you could let me keep them?" A whimper came from under the table where Tupelo was hiding. She always hid under things when she did something wrong, like that was going to keep her from getting punished. But since it didn't look like anyone was going to give her a spanking right away, she had found something else to sulk about. "I want glasses too." While Grandma tried to tell Tupelo how wicked it was to want glasses when the good Lord had given her a perfectly fine pair of eyes, Winna went back out onto the porch. The rain had stopped. There were still thin puddles on the dark, wet wooden steps, but the gravel driveway that curved below them had already soaked its puddles up. Winna walked down the steps and crouched at the bottom. The round pebbles looked pretty, sparkling and polished by the rain. Some she could almost see through like watery milk. Others had tiny flecks of gold mixed with pink and black. She'd never noticed before how beautiful a regular old driveway could be. It must be the glasses, she decided. What if they're magic? She wondered out loud. What if these are magic spectacles I'm wearing? There was a sort of shimmer in the corner of her eye. It spread so quickly she didn't have time to be afraid. It was all colors, rainbows flying off the edge of everything, as if diamonds had broken apart, as if the whole world was split into 100 images of herself, each shining brighter than the last. Then the shimmer was gone. Looking back, Winna realized that this was when the adventure began, not with putting on Great Aunt Estelle's glasses, or her old ones getting broken, or coming to stay with Grandpa Carl and Grandma. Not earlier and not later, not that night when fireworks spangled open and turned flips and somersaults and spun into circles of radiance like stars dancing for joy. It started that afternoon, in that very moment, when she squatted examining the cool, smooth stones, asking herself what made such ordinary things so great, wondering out loud if magic had come at last into her life. That was when she was caught up in speculation. Yay! First chapter. Can't wait to read the rest. Check it out from the Alameda Free Library. See you next time.